Let's dive right in. So, Rhumbix was founded in 2014 by two Navy veterans, Zach Shiel and Drew DeWalt. After their time in the military, they spent some time in construction, project controls, a couple of huge projects in Chile that they saw a bunch of inefficiency on. So much data that wasn't being put to use was trapped in spreadsheets or paper. Um, and really, after business school, set out to see what they could do to really give a better way of doing things to the industry by way of technology. So, initially starting in real-time cost code tracking, ended up settling on foreman captured field data and really giving the best possible tool to the field with a workers first mentality, um, and built out a lot of timekeeping customers here, capturing their hours in Rhumbix, but also a lot of other workflows in and around that. So time materials tracking, daily construction report, as well as what I'm going to show you today, production tracking, which works very nicely alongside timekeeping. As you can see here, I've racked up a lot of usage on our timekeeping platform, and also with top E&R contractors, several of which are already using our production tracking product: Hensel Phelps, Turner, Robinson, Anson, some names you might have heard of. So I'm excited to show you what we've been working on and the feedback we've gathered over the last couple of years, and the changes we've made to actually level up our production tracking offering for you all. So production is really the core objective of construction. If you're not completing work, you're not doing it right. If you don't know what work you're completing, you're not doing it right. So capturing labor hours is obviously critical for tracking job costs, getting folks paid, and knowing roughly where you're at relative to the budget. But as far as completion goes, you need to know what you're completing, and that's where production comes into play. So production tracking in the same system as timekeeping really just makes sense. The data belongs together. It allows you to eventually calculate productivity, unit rates. Capturing them in separate systems has never really made sense, but the industry's kind of lacked an easy way to simply capture production alongside timekeeping. So really, that's what we've set out to do. And by doing so, not only is it a reasonable ask for you to get your field to actually use, but it actually it increases the chance you're actually going to make use of that data to improve your project outcome. So, make better day of, week of decisions with knowledge in hand as far as where you're at, how you're doing. So, some of the challenges, and I touched on some of them just now, but up to date and standardized progress and productivity data really, it's difficult to achieve operationally. It has been, right? So you have these necessary workflows you have to do to get folks paid and track job costs, but production has always been kind of left up to the project level. Like, someone on the project knows where it stands, right? But as far as across your organization, a standard way of tracking and knowing where you stand has been hard to roll out, and part of it's because the ask has been heavy to do in addition to these other things you have to do to be actually doing the work, right? And so it's been aspirational and desired, but has been difficult to achieve. And also, a lot of the solutions have been kind of web only initially, to where it's not practical to have the foreman coming in using a laptop to do something in addition to, like, they're out in the field work. And even if you did that, it would usually end up siloed in a separate system. So, which makes it difficult to calculate even project-wide metrics, let alone company-wide metrics, comparing rates across your business. So solution here, really just streamline production entry alongside timekeeping. Cost code level production, you enter hours at the cost code level, enter production at the cost code level, submit it straight away with the hours, right? And also improve the feedback loop. So what we've seen is that most of the production entry has been in a vacuum, right? It's a standalone process where you're just saying, hey, where are we at on this, and this, with no context, right? What did we enter yesterday? What did we enter last week? What does this bring us to? How many are remaining? What are our unit rate now with this? We've really tried to give that feedback loop, not only to the foreman, if you want to have foreman entry, but also on the website of things, to be tracking that in real time as these updates are coming in from both hours and production. And like I said before, keeping it paired with labor hours. Some additional things like adding location notes or photos to give some context to the production entries can also help. We've tried to address that, and then also you know, opening up our analytics to really allow you to dig into this data and expose it in a way that you can just export it and do your own ad hoc analysis to maybe do some one-off reporting or answer some questions you guys are trying to solve for something you're seeing in the data. So our platform is kind of made of a few different pieces here as it relates to production. So we have our mobile application, which if you choose to do this, you can push the production entry all the way down to your foreman in the field, and available on iOS and Android, on phones, but also on tablets. So on larger screens, we have taken advantage of that real estate with production and provided some additional metrics and insight since we got more space to show you things. So I decided to show you that. And then also this data flows through to web. So much like you've used our timekeeping solution, all those time cards coming in, you can see all that data straight away on weekly view. It's really easy to sort through and see who's working on what, all the way down to the cost code level. We've taken some of the same learnings and applied them to our new production tracking offering I'll be showing you today to really be tracking week over week what's being worked on and what does it bring you to, right? Where are you at? Where do you stand? And then once this is captured, really how can you extract as much value as possible out of that data, right? So I'll show you a couple different dashboards, but one's really centered on progress. Where do we stand on the project from a production basis, and comparing that to where how many hours you've spent against the budget. So are you ahead or behind the budget, right? And then this next one really is like, are you gaining or losing on the budget day over day, week over week? And I'll just be showing that. So this is kind of where you're at. And this is how you're doing on our field analytics side of our platform. So how do you do this? And I'm going to dig into this a little more in depth in the demo, but simply capture hours on your time card, capture production. It has its own dedicated tab now alongside hours on your time card. And then that all flows through. Whether you entered it or not on mobile, you can enter it on web. So maybe you have a project level person that you want to just go ahead and start doing production on your projects for you, maybe project engineer, superintendent, whoever it might be at your company. They can go ahead and enter straight away from web, associated with the crew's hours or standalone kind of weekly true up type process. So making it easy to review, but then also true up from that same dashboard I'll be showing you, and then analyze and export things as you see fit. So, or integrate them in your ERP if that's a part of your guys's process. So, with no further ado, I'll dive right in here. Okay. So I'm gonna start on mobile here, and actually, let's go over here. Okay. So I'm on our mobile app on a tablet. It's an iOS device, and this is our timekeeping setup page. So for a time card, like I said, production gets submitted along with our time card. So I'm gonna go ahead and follow the time card, and I'll show you how the production comes into play. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose this Mission Rock project. When we get my crew set up, so let's see, I want Mike on here, Tony, and let's say I got a guy on my crew today I haven't seen before, done. I'm gonna search for him and then pull him into the crew here. So I'm gonna select my cost codes. So today we're working on rough grading, some clearing and grubbing to do, and then we're actually gonna do some compaction. So quickly selecting my cost codes, I can search across any of these values as well. And I'm going to enter this card for Wednesday actually, and click next. So I'm going to quickly do a bulk edit here and apply hours to the whole crew. I can click and select here. So just making it easy to quickly apply hours across the whole crew. So let's say we're splitting some time today across these cost codes and adding some time. And there's other things you can do, shift extras, or I could even add an absence if needed, but we're just gonna leave it as is for the purpose of this demo. So now that I've submitted my hours, I would normally be done with my time card, ready to submit this, be done with my daily timekeeping entry. But this week, we're going to start doing production tracking. So I can come over here to the production tab. You can see here hours, production, and notes. Production used to be a note. We've actually elevated it to be its own dedicated tab now. So you can see here straight away, those same cost codes that I've entered hours for are pulled in by default to our production tab. If you don't submit any production, no records are recorded. But if you do enter any values, those will flow through to web, which I'll show you here in a moment. So let's just claim some entries. So I actually claimed some last week as well, so I can see those previous entries. So I'm going to go ahead and enter some hours here, or enter some quantities. So actually we got 30 cubic yards done here. We actually got another 50 done here, and then we're a little less than our previous entry. You can see here as I'm typing, it's updating these metrics as just to show what this would bring the values to with this entry that I'm about to submit. So I can see my previous entry that I've submitted. I can quickly see how many are remaining after this, right? So make sure you don't overclaim. I can also see my job to date quantity. So how many total have we done on this project against this? That's project wide. And then also my job to date completion percentage. So this is by production, not hours here. And then this is actually comparing our job to date unit rate versus the budget unit rate to see if you're over or under the actual budget unit rate. So I think I have some budget issues on my test account here, but you can see here I can compare job to date to budget to know if you're beaten or not. It looks like this value brings us right to our budgeted unit rate there. So right on track, but should probably gain a little on that one. So I'm gonna click done, and then these stay here on the production tab, but they actually get submitted along with the time card. So make you come back and look at the hours tab for now, and not when I submit this work shift, I'm submitting that production as well. So actually, if you on the time card summary here, you can see the hours for your whole crew that you submitted, as well as the quantities that you submitted for each of these cost codes. So really just keeping that data together, making it as easy as possible to carry through. Okay, these are my hours, this is my production, and just make that a part of the process. And you can do that on every time card or weekly, maybe even monthly. And I'll kind of show you what this looks like on web. Okay, so now that we've entered on mobile, I'm gonna go ahead and refresh the production page here. This is our web production page. We kind of call it a true up page as well, depending on your workflow. You're either kind of reviewing stuff that's coming in, making sure it's correct, or you're actually entering from the web straight away. So you can see here the trailing 4 weeks. We really tried to make this as easy as possible to spot what's been worked on and dive into the actual entry level data, right? So this is a foreman, Dylan, submitted 8 hours on their crew. And I can't edit the hours from here because this is worker level data that gets reviewed through our weekly view. But it's contextual to show you, okay, how many units were completed relative to those hours, right? And if I did enter a location and description, those would appear here. Actually, should have shown you that, but here, if I click at it, on the production tab here, I can actually add details to these. So I could dive into one of these, add a location, a photo, or description. Okay, so I'm gonna click out of here. I want to show you a couple other things here. So by default, we actually have a new filter applied for cost codes. So rather than showing all the cost codes on the project, maybe you guys have 100,000 cost codes, whatever it is, but any given week, it's a subset of that you're working on, right? So rather than wading through all of the data, make it really easy to quickly whittle down to just the stuff that's been touched this week by any of your crews, any of the data coming in. So I could open this up and click show all. So maybe you're a project engineer and you know which codes you're looking for. I'm gonna just go ahead and show all codes, and I'm just gonna get in here and make sure I'm truing up all these from a production standpoint. So maybe, you know, I know landscape grading, I need to get that trued up. I can click add entry, make this myself or someone else if you have the permission to do that, and then go ahead and get an entry here. It doesn't need to come with any hours, right? So either have your foreman submit it with your time cards, or you can have someone true it up on web. And the nice thing about this is there's just a lot of ways to get to the data and make sure it's right. So, you know, the buck stops with someone on the project team, right? So just make it easy to see what's come in, and then at the end of the day, make sure you've trued it all up. So I can actually group by cost code group, and you'll see here if I filter back down to just the cost codes that have been worked on, actually, like this. You can see these are all earthwork codes, all these codes that have been worked on. And I'm saying, you know what? I did a site walk. They did not get 30 done today. They only got 20 cubic yards done of this. And I can actually edit this value, or I could back it out, right? So maybe I leave it at 30, and I could back out 10 hours, right? You can also zero it out. So just a lot of options for truing up this data, making sure it's correct. At the end of the day, where are we at? And this will flow through all the metrics. So it's important that you get it right, but making it as easy as possible with as few of clicks to get in here and get it corrected. And these changes are only submitted when you actually edit this. So let's say I left this at 30, and I'm going to back out 10, something like that. Click save and close, and it'll reload the data. So you can see here we've given some contextual metrics, and I want to touch on this quickly, and then we'll show you the field analytics side of things. So for each of these cost codes, we're showing the trailing 4 weeks, but you can actually go back in time and look at previous weeks as well. We still show you the trailing 4 weeks relative to the selected week. So you guys are familiar probably with our kind of selected date range based off your payroll cycle. It is tied to that payroll cycle. You can submit production daily in whatever interval, but we do kind of carry that over for your weekly reporting. And we provide this contextual information. So what does this mean, right? Here's the hours and the aggregate hours and the total production that was submitted each week. But then what does that bring us to? So much like on mobile, when we were showing the contextual values while entering, we show those here. So job to date quantity relative to the budgeted quantity, right? How close we get into that budget. And this is to go quantity over here, obviously just the difference of those. And then the job to date percent complete. So really just keeping tabs on all your cost codes. And there's sorting, filtering, and also exporting from here. So you can actually just export this data to Excel if you want to do a quick export of the data, which brings me to our analytics. So I'm very excited to have launched a few new dashboards. So some revamped versions of our old dashboards, but with some new functionality. So this is our cost code status dashboard. Right now, this is just available on web, but it will be coming to mobile very soon. And this is really just, like I said before, about project progress. How are we tracking on these cost codes? So I do get some overall KPIs here. So hour percent complete versus work percent complete, and then just overall, what are total budget hours on this project, actual hours, how many hours we have left to finish this thing. And then I can dive down into the cost code level of detail down here. Same metrics, right? Budget hour, actual hour, remaining hour, percent complete. And then we actually show you a bar for each of these. So you can compare the work percent complete and the hours percent complete. If the work percent complete is below the hours percent complete, you're behind, right? So spotting that easily. And then we actually show if you're over budget, right? So if remaining hours is negative, you're over budget, right? And we show that, reflect that red in the same hours percent complete as well. We do have some data definitions here, so it is kind of user friendly to mouse over, but you can look at it down here, which also is a benefit if you are exporting this, right? So we actually allow you to download these dashboards either to Excel or as a PDF. So these data definitions will come out with a PDF if you do kind of take this offline and don't have mouse over functionality. And Zoom is kind of getting in my way here to click on the next tab, so we'll do that. Okay, so our other dashboard. Oh, and I should note, this dashboard's available to all of your users, right? So foreman users, PMs, payroll admins, admin users in Rhumbix. This other dashboard here is a little more in-depth. We've reserved this for PM, payroll admin, and admin, and it does not have a mobile variant coming, but has some really useful insight into this data and really speaks to why you want to keep your timekeeping and production data together, because it allows you to really see how you're doing, not just where you're at. So this gain loss is earned hours minus actual hours. So earned hours is, based on the budgeted unit rate and the production we've claimed, how many hours did we earn? And if that's greater than your actual hours, you're in the green. If you're earning less than you've spent, the actual timekeeping hours, you're in the red. And so we actually, this allows you to set the granularity for, what you want to compare. And really this comes down to how often you're truing up the data, right? If you're doing daily production entry, you can actually bump this all the way down to daily. What we found is most people do weekly production entry, and that's a pretty good level of detail for, seeing, okay, at the end of the week, we made sure we had all the hours in and we had the production trued up, and we're ready to report on this. So I'm actually looking at this other project here over the last 2 years, and you can see it looks like we were catching up on some claiming some quantities here at several junctures. Maybe got a little behind. So not ideal probably, but it is that's the whole nature of true-up, right? So and down below here, this really allows you to dive into these metrics, into more advanced metrics. So your cost code data, your budget data, so your budget quantity, budget hours, and then what would that budget unit rate be based off of your budget hours and quantities, and then period reporting. So up here, we allow you to specify your period. So I'm doing last 2 years, right? But I could specify, last 1 month, and I could see how are we doing over the last 1 month, right? How many quantities did we install? What are actual hours, earned hours? And you can compare their actual and earned pretty simply, but then also do some stuff like performance factor and then gain loss here for this report for this period. And then over to the right here, this is your job to date values. So really just total quantities installed, actual hours, earned hours. So this section becomes really useful for reporting purposes and custom analysis. So you can actually export any of these tables to Excel, and you can go do your own ad hoc analysis. I think it opens another tab and then pulls it down. In any case, and we've included these same data definitions down below, so okay, how is this actually being calculated? Okie doke. So with that kind of end-to-end demo, want to touch on a few things that we just saw. So one of the main things we really aimed to address was making it easy for your teams to get started. We kept on here, we want production, we want to be doing production, but in the field, it's really hard to implement. It's hard to get folks using it daily or weekly, right? And so we've made it flexible in that you can do weekly entry or daily entry, right? Maybe you start with weekly entry, move to daily entry. You can do project level entry, right? Have a PM, a PE, a PC, a superintendent, just do your weekly true up of all the data. And you can see it pulled down my report there. Have them do it for the whole project weekly, right? Or you can actually push it down to crew level entry. And that's either having the foreman do it or seeing those foreman entries come in with their hours and then applying quantities to each one of those crews after the fact. So a couple different flexible options, get started with broad strokes and then narrow it down to get more granular as your team gets more comfortable with it. The web entry here, making it easy for folks, like I said, those project folks to enter it, or you actually grow into, foremen are now submitting time cards. Let's go ahead and have them do production too. They're the ones that knew what they did. So just move over to that tab, enter your production, right? And then a few things that are coming up. So I'm really excited to share with you some of this functionality that will be coming out very soon. Some of you are some of the first to hear about it. So percent complete entry. So what I showed you today was discrete quantities, actually entering the quantities verbatim. A lot of cost codes don't make sense to do with that level of detail, and or a lot of teams are used to just kind of estimating percent complete, and then as they get really close to completion, they have a grasp on exactly how close they are. But percent complete entry actually allowing your field team, any of those places I was entering or editing quantities, actually just enter what's the current percent complete as the entry, and then having all the metrics kind of be back calculated in a way from that. So that'll be coming out very soon. But then maybe you do, start there or do that for some cost codes, and then some cost codes you do want that discrete quantity level of detail, or you need it, right, for some of your workflows. So have your team grow into that. And then you can just start with some critical cost codes, right? So, maybe a large portion of your work success on those projects is really driven by just a few cost codes. Why not start tracking production on just those cost codes, right? And then maybe eventually move into tracking like all of your direct work, right? And then soon we'll allow you to actually hide either indirects or stuff you don't want getting reported on from the analytics I showed you. So there's actually a way to do that we might dig into in a bit if we have time. But I'm really excited to give your teams more ways to work, how you work, think the way you think as far as discrete quantities or percent complete, or just tracking critical stuff and do it in the field or do it in the field office. So just recapping really quickly, streamlined mobile production entry, and I'll go back into presentation mode here. Streamlined mobile production entry on the time cards, right? cost codes carried over with contextual information, even more metrics on tablets if you got larger screens. We'll probably be opening up a way to kind of scroll through all the metrics on mobile as well at some point. And then web production true up. So whether you enter on mobile or not, make it really easy to see what's come in, true up any of those metrics. So really just making sure at the end of the day, at the end of the week, you know where you stand on all the cost codes, and that's what making that as easy as possible. That's really what the web production trip's about. And then touching on just a few notes here, and I'm mainly just leaving this in this deck so that if you're in the recording, you can look at some of the things we've addressed. But over a lot of the feedback we got on what do we want to see out of production, the few different themes are coming to light, right? Not all teams are ready to push production tracking to foreman, but we want an easy way to do it, and we want that opportunity to do that. And so we've opened it up, right? Allow foreman to do it, but make it easy on web to enter it as well, regardless of how you do it. But if foremen do it, it shouldn't be a needle in a haystack thing, right? I should know what's been submitted, what production they've claimed, and making that as easy as possible to spot and surface on web. And there's a few different things we've done there, but really just the searching functionality, whittling it down to with just hours in production, just making it easy to jump to that data that was submitted. And then after you have all this rich data, give me the data, right? Like, give me access to it, and just allowing you to export from any of these different dashboards or visualizations, as well as our data is fully available via our public API for you to integrate as you see fit, or build your own custom reporting off of in your own BI tool. So showed you a couple field analytics dashboards. The cost code status dashboard, which is centered on progress, right? How are we doing? Like, what are we getting done? And then the gain loss dashboard, which is really how are we doing? So are we beating the budget? Are we falling behind the budget? But then also digging into more advanced metrics for you all to crunch on and try and glean things from to improve your projects. So with that, I know I covered a lot of ground. I guess turn it over to you all. I guess Clinton's going to moderate some questions and challenge me here.
Yeah, we've got a really active audience here, so I appreciate everyone's questions. A few things that are coming in that are so I guess we got a lot of project managers on the meeting, and they're wanting to know more about the how do we enter a budget, right? How do we get the cost codes in here easily? Where do we set our units of production? Those type of things. And then if you could just speak to maybe some of the customers we have on really large projects. One of the individuals was asking about is there any limit to the number of cost codes that you can use on a particular project?
Got it. Yeah, no, we actually have some people running like several thousand cost codes on a project. So not sure how many you're talking about, but that's not even a limit per se, but we have seen that done successfully. We're providing that search functionality throughout kind of makes that possible, right? So you can jump to the codes, portions of the cost code if you whatever your nomenclature is.
Yeah. And I'd like to add one other thing to that, Dylan, that you kind of showed probably a little bit earlier, but even if you have thousands of cost codes, we kind of help your foreman in surfacing just those codes that he's applying time to that day. Yeah. So despite the fact that you've got thousands of cost codes in this
you're not hunting through them again.
Yeah, it's really easy for your guys, because once they pick them, we're just going to prompt them automatically, say, hey, you applied hours to this day and this activity. Do you want to go ahead and make some record some units on that activity as well? So even though you have thousands of codes, we make it super easy for your foreman in the field to enter this.
And so the same efficiencies that we've kind of built into our timekeeping product, being able to duplicate a time card day to day, hang on to your crew, or even just when you open up a new time card, it's still got your crew and cost code selected. You get to take advantage of that with the way we've implemented production. It's on its tab, but you get those cost codes straight away. So kind of hanging on to those cost codes. So if you're just adding a few each week or moving a few, that same sort of time spent on your time card flow carries over, and you get to reap that benefit on your production side. So showing you here the budget setup. So depending on how much data your company has, and integration might be well suited here to actually pull over these budget values from your ERP. But we do have some upload flows as well. So you can go ahead and upload your budget to by CSV file up to any project. So, and you'll see here that here are the cost codes, cost code description, cost code group. So these are those values we were seeing in the dashboards I was showing. And then this is really what is the, all the metrics build off of, right? So your budgeted quantity, right? This is what you're claiming against as you're entering production, and unit of measure. And even if you track percent complete, once we open that up, there's still a budget probably, right? You know what you estimated. So you still can calculate a bunch of these metrics. And so the way we've architected the new percent complete, it will actually allow you to enter a budget, but then track percent complete. So you still get all that analysis as far as unit rates, performance factor, all that thing, all those. And then your budgeted hours, of course, which your labor hours are getting pulled against. And then these aren't actually released yet, but they will be coming soon. So you guys are getting a sneak peek here. So you can actually change the entry type per cost code to percent complete. You will be able to soon. And then you can also hide certain cost codes from the field analytics reporting. So maybe there's a bunch of indirect codes that it's cleanup, supervision, whatever, that you're not really tracking productivity on. Let's go ahead and get those off the reports. So people aren't worrying themselves about how we're performing on cleanup, because that's not even really a concept. So
yeah, so one of the other questions was really concerned about getting their data out of the system. And one other question real quick that came in, will the unit of measure be, when do you think the unit of measure percent complete will be rolled out? Can you even speak to that?
I'm currently testing the work.
Okay.
So I'm hoping mid-January we'll have percent complete in y'all's hands. So that's my current estimate. The devs have been building a lot, so there's a lot of releases coming in January, different fronts. But
here's another really good one that came in, and so you got two, right? So one of the individuals was concerned about getting their data out. So I think this is like your productivity dashboard.
Yeah.
And then this other individual is asking about the capability of being able to track an activity or cost code across multiple jobs. So would he have the ability to compare, let's just say, concrete placement on multiple jobs to see, what their productivity is across multiple jobs? I think that's the question right now.
Got it. Yeah, very exciting, and that's the kind of why we built the foundation this way, is to open up that possibility. I'll kind of talk to that in a moment. But for exporting, I showed this briefly, but on this production dashboard, you can actually export here. So I can just pull this down. This exports these values. Of course, there's multiple values in each of these trailing 4-week cells. So let's get broken out into separate columns. I'll kind of just show you the Excel file here. So you can see this is this data just exported. So if you want to run your own analysis on this, you can go straight away. I'm actually planning to have job to date hours added to this as well. So it can serve as like a really light cost code hour report as well. So, if you're wanting to just see where your hours are going over the last 4 weeks and job to date, this should be a pretty good place to do that. Right now it's really production focused, but we've had so many people kind of wanting to get the job date hours out of it. It just makes sense to add. So I think we'll be doing that soon. And then I showed you already on the looker reports, you can actually export any of these tables or even some of these other visualizations. This one's the big tables are probably the most relevant. But even if you're going to into a work in progress meeting or a weekly planning meeting, downloading this whole summary down to PDF or something like that, or even just having this pulled up, right, is a way to do that. So project to project. Go ahead.
Just real quick. For those people that wanted to, this data is also available via the API, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So we have a full public API. So really just opening up, and I have to move this down because
we don't need to go into depth on that, but just wanted to, let everybody know that that's a possibility as well. So you can tie this in.
Just go to docs.rhumbix.com. You can see what all's exposed via public API for integrating. You can even build like Power BI files that pull from the public API. So you can do your own BI tools. We actually also have like I think it's a Domo connector that some folks are using to pull their data into Domo. So you can see everything that's here in production. Quantity entries is what it's called in the public API, but this allows you to get your get your quantity data, including those any images that were captured through the
All right, sorry for interrupting you, but yeah, no, I think we're back to that. We need to answer the question about the
yeah,
cross-project
so
reporting.
company level reporting, right? Cross project. How are we
Yep.
performing on certain cost codes across multiple projects? So this is the next step for where we're wanting to take our field analytics. So we have all this cost code data in Rhumbix. Cost codes are project cost codes. So there's kind of a uniqueness set up with a project number and a cost code, right? You can only have one of each cost code on a project, but you could have the same cost code on every project in your company or most projects or whatever it might be. So how do you compare those two projects? So what we're looking at right now is, you know, benchmarking, right? Benchmark your cost codes within your company across all of your work, right? It's kind of the step one for benchmarking, and giving company level dashboards to really track that, right? Or just project to project comparison. So right now, of course, you could pull open like gain loss, right, for two different projects and do your own sort of comparison for two different projects or multiple projects. Right now, this is bound to just single project. So we've really tried to address the project specific production ecosystem, but all this data all lives together. So you could build your own reports today off of all of this using the public API or even just exporting. But yeah, we'll actually be releasing some dashboards that actually will speak to that benchmarking cost codes across across your company. So excited, more to come, and you should give us your name so we can interview you for some research. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's
like I'll have
really
down.
No, I think that's really answers most of the questions. I don't have any others coming in, so I think with that we can probably conclude the webinar. And we just want to thank everybody for attending today. Appreciate your time. We will be following up this webinar with a link to the demo recording, so you can view and share that with your team. And if you need us, if you'd like to schedule a more in-depth product demo, just reach out to us. We're happy to help assist you with that. And yeah, I think that's it. I really appreciate everyone attending today.
Yeah, thank you all. Take care.